everyone, this is Misti-Dawn with the Manamal Streaming Radio. I'm sitting here talking to the lead singer of the band City of Thieves, Jamie Laley. Thank you so much for joining me today. Jamie, how are you doing?
I'm really good, thanks. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Thank you for asking. We finally got this together, everybody.
It's been a long time coming, right?
Yes, it has been.
5 days.
Yes, but we figured it out, so we're good to go. First off, I want to say, after listening to your music, you guys really mean business. I mean, there's no frills, it's in your face, rock and roll, and for three guys, I think you pack a major punch, so that's awesome. Thank you for that.
No, thank you.
Now,
it's what you said. It's just trying to, spend the time, get all the songs together, live your life a bit, write about what you're going to write about, and then get together and deliver it, on a record and have fun putting all that together and playing around with how everything's going to sound and how it's going to turn out in the studio and stuff, and then from there figure out a way of how you're going to go and play that and deliver it live to people.
Right. Well, you do it well, very well.
Thank you very much.
Really enjoy your music. So, now what initially drew you to the music industry?
Well, I grew up with, my dad was a pro musician for a long time, and so we had, as I got older, when I'm talking about like sort of 10, 11 years old, I guess I'd start talking to him about music, and I'd start discovering things, and like I knew he played, so we had guitars lying around the house and stuff like that, and they pique your interest, and you think, I want to try playing that, or can I have a go on that, and whatever, and it just kind of stuck, and so I started to develop playing guitar and then onto bass, and the first time I remember sort of really, really thinking that this is what I want to do was, I guess was the first time I saw the Paradise City music video.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd have been probably about 11 or 12 or something, and just that first scene in that video where it cuts out from the empty stadium at sound check to like being full of people, and just that feeling of like, I want to be there doing that.
That's awesome. But so many videos like that. I mean, I've actually talked to many musicians that have been inspired by, a video that they have seen, or just, talking to their parents about whatever kind of music they listen. So it varies, but it's a lot the same as well. Now, who are some of your favorite bands and singers that may have also inspired you and influenced you?
So obviously Guns N' Roses is a major one in terms of like, that was the first band that I fully kind of completely fell for, and I was just obsessed with them. I wanted to know everything about them. I wanted to read all their interviews. I wanted to watch any videos or anything like that. So that was like when I really fell for a band hook, line and sinker, I suppose, for the first time. But then other than that, I mean, there's so many things you discover as you start to kind of figure out where all that stuff came from. So latterly, I guess like Mick Jagger is a massive influence on me in terms of like trying to deliver the sort of swagger that he can in lyrics. Steven Tyler just has the most amazing imagination for, how he uses harmonies, how he writes lyrics, how he uses rhythms, how he uses delivery, and his use of kind of dual entendres and things like that. So that he's like a massive influence vocally. And then John Fogerty, I think, is probably one of the other ones, just because you listen to like the early Creedence stuff. I remember the first time I heard Born on the Bayou, it was just like, who is this guy? Like, this is ridiculous. He just sounds like an animal. And like, so all of those people, I guess, combined vocally kind of sum up somewhere where I want to be headed, I guess. And a combination of all those things. But then, like musically and lyrically and vocally as well, some of the older blues guys like Howlin' Wolf, for example. I mean, I'm never going to sound like him, but like, just trying to capture that kind of feral sort of power that you can get into your voice and figure out how it's going to work for you, So yeah, loads of different stuff.
Now the other guys in the band, are there similar influences, or are they kind of all across the board?
Yeah, I mean, Ben and I, the guitar player, his influences are very, very much along the same lines as me. He's a massive, massive Stevie Ray Vaughan fan. Our kind of joint passion is back when we met, certainly was AC/DC and the Rolling Stones. So we had that as our kind of common thread. And then we both love the blues, and it's really funny. I always used to say to Ben, like, if our biggest musical difference is that you're a Muddy Waters guy and I'm a Howlin' Wolf guy, then we haven't got too much to fall out about. Then, so that's that. And I guess latterly we both kind of got a kind of a love for certain different elements of punk, but not like where we'd use it overtly, but we kind of realized that we're so full on that we can't help but be compared to certain punk bands, I guess. So we kind of listened through some Sex Pistols and some Stooges and things like that and figure out where we could lift certain ideas or where we kind of found similarities to what we were doing. Whereas Will comes from a little bit more, so like, I guess I share with Will the kind of the Guns N' Roses thing, and we've all got a lot of Aerosmith, but Will will kind of go to the extremes of heaviness. He like grew up listening to Soundgarden and Tool and Pearl Jam and things like that. So he kind of brought a much heavier grunge element in terms of what he listened to. So gradually, we kind of provide some riffs and ideas that fit more in that vibe. And that's where you kind of get this sort of melting pot of ideas. You're always just trying to create something slightly new out of it, right?
Right. That's great, though. I mean, to be able to all have the influence in your music, I think for me would make the music more special that way, instead of just being, the singer or one individual person influences you. That's a band. You're doing it all together. So that's great.
Yeah, I mean, the writing process, we'll go through like, Ben and I will write a lot of the demos and stuff, and we'll record pretty like full produced demos if we can. But we tend not to try to like overwrite drum parts, for example, because we want to hear what Will's going to do with it. But like an idea for a song might come because we've been sitting around having a chat about music and we've listened to some different stuff. And we could do something down that route a bit, So that's certainly where the heavier stuff kind of came from. And we also bands like the Black Crowes and Lynyrd Skynyrd and the Allman Brothers, a lot of the really southern stuff as well. Like that's something we all share a real love for. I guess latterly now, like Blackberry Smoke and things like that, who are gathering a lot of momentum. So that kind of southern streak, which I think is quite hard to pull off when you're English. I think you do it in your own way when you're an English band, but yeah.
Now let's get into your upcoming debut album, Beast Reality. Now that comes out on October 12th on Frontiers.
This Friday.
On Frontiers Music, right?
Yep.
And
Friday.
You must be super, super stoked for that.
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, we've done, it's the first sort of major label release we've done. We've released loads of stuff in the past and under an old band name and stuff as well. We've released like albums and EPs, but this is the first sort of major label thing that we've been involved with. So to see the kind of professionalism behind it and the scope of where it's going to. So like it's really bizarre, from next Saturday, we're going to be able to walk into like the big record store chains in the UK and actually walk in and see our CD on the shelves. That's something that we've always wanted, and it's in vinyl as well. So that's going to be like super sick because we're going to get to have our own record on vinyl and have that as something to just treasure forever, whatever happens from this point.
And it's got to be exciting that it's on Frontiers. I mean, that's huge.
It is. I mean, like literally now you've got two choices of label, I think, for rock music. It's either you're on Frontiers or you're on Earache, especially over here. And so to be on one of those two major teams is just like such a big thing. I mean, look at who else is putting albums out through Frontiers as well at the moment. You've got Whitesnake, you've got Nazareth, you've got there's like all the other bands that they've got on their label, like bands on our level, like Bigfoot and people like that. They're just putting out really cool albums by bands that they believe really have something,
Right. Now, Toby Jepson produced. Mike Frazier did the mixing, and it was mastered by Simon Francis, all of whom are seasoned in the music biz. Who was the first person that contacted who?
It started off through our manager, who is friends with Toby Jepson's manager, and they work together. And we got we told our manager, like, because we were sitting around, we weren't really doing very much, and we were like, well, actually, you know what, let's just, we had nothing to do. So our solution to having nothing to do is to decide to write an album. So we thought we're going to just start writing. And we told our manager, we were like, we're going to go meet some people about producing. And he said, right, leave it with me, I've got a couple of ideas. So he rang us back and said, Steve Strange, who's Toby Jepson's manager and friend, he basically said that Steve thinks you should get in touch with Toby. And so we emailed Toby to set up a meeting, and we met him in West London. We went and met up and had a chat. In fact, no, before that, we sent him an email, and he asked us to send him some, that was right, we sent him some CDs. And he was like busy, tied up with some other stuff, and he'd basically forgotten that he'd asked us to send them to him. And one day his wife came home and said, that band in your car, she borrowed his car, that band is playing in your car, you have to work with them. And he said, what band? And she went, Four Wheel Drive, that CD you've got in your car. And he went, oh shit, I forgot that I was supposed to get in touch with them. And basically, his wife talked him into calling us. So that's how that went. So he called us back and he listened to all the stuff. And he went, actually, yeah, no, we can really do something here. I really love what you're doing. Send us some of your demos. And the thing with Toby was, he just said to us, send us whatever you're writing. And it's just going to be, he said, I'll listen to it. I'll give you some advice, or, where I think you could improve on it, or what you could go off and try and do. And he got really invested in it before we'd ever paid him a penny, or before we'd ever agreed to work with him. He just started handing out like free advice. And we were like, well, so this guy's pretty safe. Like, if he's going to do all this without us committing to anything, it kind of shows that he's the guy we should go with. So we got into initially we were kind of not sure whether we'd do like an EP or a full-length album, but as we started writing, and our relationship with Toby, he would just send us feedback and we'd adjust everything, and usually the second draft of the track would be like the finished structure that we'd use. So we ended up doing some pre-production sessions. We went in and recorded like 6 tracks in a residential studio in the Midlands here, and we came out of it and we were like, this could be really good. We need to do this again. So rather than release it, we sat on it and we went back and wrote some more songs and turned it into the album. We went back into the studio, did the second half, recorded that, and we were finishing everything up at my studio at home, finishing up like vocal overdubs and guitar overdubs. And Toby was listening to it. He's going, man, Mike Fraser would absolutely kill this. Like, he'd really kill this record. We need to get in touch with him. So we teamed up with him basically just over the internet. We set up and sent him all the files over, and he agreed a deal with us where he'd mix. It was like 4 or 5 of the tracks he did, and we was just like amazing. He'd send us them over. He'd be working in Canada, and he'd wake us up about 4 or 5 a.m. UK time when he's at the end of his day, and we'd listen to them, and we'd send back what we wanted, and he'd tweet them, and then he'd send the second verse back. And often it wouldn't take more than, like, sometimes just the first mix was perfect, because that dude just knows what he's doing, right? So that's how that happened. And then Toby knew Simon from some other projects he'd worked on, so he mastered that side of it as well. So it was just a really fortuitous chain of events, really.
That's awesome. Great story for that. Now let's get into the first official video, Through Frontiers, Buzzed Up City. The intro to this song is crazy cool. Can you give us an insight to what the song is about? And do you write these songs from personal experience?
Yeah, so every song on the record is either about personal experience or is about personal philosophy, I guess. Like, so it's not kind of like pretending to be something that it isn't. I think that's the key point. Like, everything, whether we're using like an allegory in a song to describe something, we still believe what we're saying.
Right.
And Buzzed Up City was specifically about our kind of scene in London as it was at the time when we were writing that album. And the scene was going through a lot of changes. There was a lot of venues closing down. There was a lot of bands who were, that they just try too hard to be something, or try too hard to be something that they weren't. And we were competing with all these bands. I think the thing that people overlook with music is bands are always competing with each other. I mean, you might be friends, but you're still competing because that you're still after the same fan base, and the same fan base still has the same amount of disposable income, and you want them to buy your CD and your T-shirt and your product when it comes out. So when you do a live show, you're kind of, we view it like it's a sporting event, right? If you're on the bill with somebody else, you want to win. You don't want to just be nice to them.
Right.
So Buzzed Up City was about all these bands who kind of would either like doing things for the wrong reasons, or they were very naive about what they were trying to do. And it was about how our world fitted in with that, and what was going on in our city at the time we wrote it. And also kind of takes a swipe at the way the press deals with things sometimes, because the rock press over here can be very insular, and you can be the biggest band in London and not get anywhere, as it turns out. For what we were doing, we were one of the biggest bands that was homegrown. We were selling out 500 cap venues whenever we wanted to, and putting tickets. We were running these gigs ourselves because we didn't have any attention from anybody else, and it was our way of like going, what do you have to do before someone pays attention to you? We're here. We've been here the whole time for years, grinding out and building a fan base and releasing products and just being real. And we're selling out these venues and still no one cares. It was just really bizarre.
Aww. Now, was Buzzed Up City the first single that was dropped as well?
Correct. Yeah, it went with the video. Yeah.
And do you know what the next one will be, or can you not tell us that?
No, actually, we're discussing that at the moment, and if I knew, I would tell you, but I don't actually know. Frontiers are pretty cool about, like, if we got a reason why we think a certain song's going to work, then they'll get behind it. So, I mean, like, they're pretty happy with everything that's on the record. So if we decide that we want to release a particular song, then that's cool. Like, I think the next one's not going to have the same. So that we just did the Reality Bites video, which was really, really good fun. And it took a good few planning sessions, but when we started filming it, we wrapped it in 2 days, and it was edited the day after that. So actually the process for making it was only about 3 days, which was insane turnaround. But the next video we do will probably be like a lyric video to accompany another single, and it's likely to come out around Christmas, I think, because it's going to tie into the tour that we're doing in the UK in January. So we need to discuss with them when that's going to be, but we don't know yet.
Awesome. Now, every tune on this is badass, but I really, really love Control. It just kind of gets me revved up. And
nice.
I know it's difficult for most musicians to choose a favorite off of their album, but if you could only pick one, what would you pick?
First of all, I want to say that I'm really glad you picked that track out, because to us, sometimes I think it's really difficult. Sometimes tracks kind of go missing. And we played a show yesterday, and Will was saying to me, he's like, man, we need to get Control. It needs to be in our set. Because we did a short set. We did half an hour, and it wasn't in there. And it's just, I think sometimes I forget we even wrote it. Not because I don't like it, but because I think it's great. And it's just got it really stands on its own a little bit from the rest of the songs on there.
Absolutely.
And it's got kind of that, I don't know, it's got kind of a Motley Crue-ish vibe to a bit of it. And then there's like, the lyrics are a bit different to everything else on there as well. So I'm really glad you picked that one out. If I was going to pick like one, I can't. I don't know.
It's hard.
It would depend what mood I was in. Maybe Reality Bites. Maybe Something and Nothing, or maybe Born to Be Great. One of those three, I think.
There you go. That works too. Now, this is a better question. If you had to choose,
it was a great question. It was just a really bad answer. That was the issue.
If you had to choose a track from this album that you feel embodies the band as a whole, what song would that be, and why?
I think now that I would definitely pick Reality Bites as like the one that I choose to represent us as we are now. And the reason is that it was during the writing process we tried to move away from songs which we felt that people could describe as airborne / AC/DC. And it took us a long time because we felt like we were really good at that idea or that style. It took us a long time before we felt comfortable really moving away from it. And like when I listen to Reality Bites as a song, I love the fact that it's done and dusted in 3 minutes flat. I love the fact that it still has like what we really consider important in songs is writing a really, really hooky chorus that's singable, and it's not just like weird and shouty or whatever. Like I feel like it's got one of those really hooky choruses, and I feel like that it's just got one of the dirtiest riffs as well. So it kind of sums up everything that we managed to achieve being, and lyrically is one of my favorites as well. But also it does it in a way that we still retained the kind of hooky, poppy element to the choruses that we try to keep in all our choruses, but being super heavy at the same time.
Right. Good choice there. That's a great tune. I like everything on it, but that's a great tune. So,
thank you.
Sure. Now, are there any upcoming shows that you could shed some light on?
Yeah, of course. So we are doing a Christmas show at our favourite venue in London, which is called the Big Red, which is in Holloway. And it's about 500 capacity, and hopefully that is almost certainly going to be rammed. It's like just over a week before Christmas. We're going to have a few surprises in there, maybe some guest spots and stuff like that too. It's kind of like, whereabouts in the States are you based at? Where are you at the moment?
I'm in Pennsylvania.
You're the other side. Yeah, so it's like I was saying to someone the other day, it's really like the Rainbow in LA, the Big Red. It's like our equivalent of that. Mm-hmm. But it's like a venue as well. So that's our favourite place to kind of play when we're in London. And then after Christmas, we're doing a festival in Wales in November called Hard Rock Hell. And then in January, we're doing a UK tour with Inglorious, who are also on our label. And we're going to do 8 to 10 dates around the UK. We'll be doing Shepherd's Bush Empire in London, which is like 2,000 capacity. And we reckon that one will sell out easily before the show starts. So that's going to be like the best venue that we've played in London ever, like most prestigious venue. And we're also doing a Frontiers Festival as part of that tour in Birmingham. So we're going to be on the bill for that as well. And yeah, so we're covering the whole country basically in about 8 to 10 days, and that's going to be really decent venues. Like the smallest venue I think is 800 capacity, so it's going to be a really good step for us to start hitting those stages and show what we can do.
Very nice. That's great. Good luck to you with all of that. Seriously, you guys deserve good things.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Now, do you ever get nervous before a show?
Yeah, I do. Well, not, yeah, kind of, because I guess like it comes back to that sense of competition I was talking about earlier on.
Yep.
So I tend not to get nervous if we're the only band. Like sometimes we'll do shows where we're the only band on the bill, and you don't really get nervous before that. But I just it's more like you get pumped before you play, because say you're on a bill and someone opens for you and they're really good, then you need to be on your game. Or say you're opening for someone, you really need to be on your game because you want to rattle them. You want to make sure that you give them something to think about before they play.
Right.
So whenever there's that sense of competition, then there's that kind of competition nerves that comes with it, but it's good nerves. It's not like, stage fright nerves. It's just like, we need to go and do this now. We need to be serious. We need to go and do the business.
Right. If you hadn't become a musician, what do you think you'd be doing now?
That's a really good question. I think if I hadn't become a musician, then right now, then rather than just being a part-time obsession, I think poker would have got hold of me completely and I'd be a pro poker player by now.
There you go. Poker's good. I like to play it myself, but I'm always losing, so forget it.
It's still fun to play. I mean, depends how much you're losing, but
Right. Now, is there any musician, dead or alive, that you would have loved to collaborate with or would collaborate with?
Yeah, do you know what? I'd love to do something with Eminem.
Oh, that would be cool.
There you go. I had to get. I was realized earlier on I didn't kind of list him in my influences, but yeah, I think to do something crossover to work with him, that would just be sick. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I love Eminem. Now, would you happen to have any advice for future aspiring musicians?
Yeah. You have to get out and play. And like right now in London, I don't know how you do that because the opportunities and the venues are getting harder and harder to get into because there's less and less of them. And the bands who are doing it have been around for longer and longer and longer and are better and better and better. So like we still play with bands who have been our contemporaries for like 10 years because the whole industry's kind of bottlenecked a bit. So like even bands on our level are playing in venues where you'd think up and coming bands should be playing, but they can't get in there because all of us are still occupying that scene because it's harder and harder to break into that next level.
Right.
But you have to find a way of playing live because if you ain't doing that like regularly, you ain't going to get good enough to really, really show what you're about. Because that can take years, right? You might be playing for 2-3 years before you really kind of figure out what you're doing and who you are and what you sound like. And you need those opportunities. And we were really lucky because we had that all the way along. We always had venues that we had residencies at and that we considered our home and that gave us the chance to develop being us and turning into who we are now. And that was something that we wouldn't be in this position if we didn't have that. And also, you really need that opportunity. So play as much as you can, write as much as you can, and try not to overuse your influences. You have to be comfortable moving away from them as soon as you feel comfortable doing so.
That was sound advice. That was one of the best answers that I've gotten since I've been doing these interviews. That's
cool. Thank you.
Now, how do you feel music here in the U.S. compares to the music scene in London?
I'm lucky enough to have spent quite a lot of time over in the US, and I've never played a show there. Like I've never been over professionally, but I've traveled from through a lot of different states. About 2 years ago, me and my wife did New York to LA in 2.5 weeks in a car. So we kind of had a lot of time to listen to the radio and stuff. And I think there's this really strong vibe in the US where you have bands, like certain states have certain scenes, I guess. So you get very strong scenes within a state. And you can almost the thing with the US is you can be mega famous and sustain your career without ever leaving the States if you want to, because it's just so vast. And I don't feel like you can really do that here. Like you have to get out of the UK if you want to make it your career. You can still be famous. In terms of rock bands, I'd say people do know who we are in the UK, but it's never paid one of my phone bills, people knowing that. So I think in the States, you can actually kind of be self-sufficient and have it as your career without ever leaving your home country, because you can just go so many different places, right?
Right.
And I think that the different scenes that you get I think you still have a lot of kind of geographical scenes. So you'll still get East Coast stuff will still be kind of native and big in the East Coast, or you'll have the hip hop scene in Detroit is different to the hip hop scene in LA, and you've got country's such a big deal. You go through from from New York to Texas, you can just drive and just hear country the whole way.
Right.
And that's like a massive deal. And, you know, a lot of the bigger country guys, they don't get over here in the same way. You know, like no one in the UK knows who Luke Bryan is.
Right.
But because he doesn't have to come here. Like, he can fill stadiums every day in the US. Why does he have to come to the UK where no one knows who he is?
Right.
So I think there's a lot of stuff that you have over there that doesn't make it over here as well, just because it doesn't have to. But, you know, we do get the odd, you know, like there is a, like, for example, a growing country scene in the UK in terms of people that will listen to it. You know, like we saw Maren Morris at the Shepherd's Bush Empire do her first sold out show there. Now we're going to be playing there in a couple of months. So, you know, she played with Taylor Swift in Dallas a few days ago. She went out and did a song with Taylor Swift. So yeah, we get Taylor Swift over here, but she's known as a pop star rather than like no one knows her roots from Nashville and stuff like that. So yeah.
That's great. That's a good answer.
No, I'm just chatting about country music. Sorry. Yeah, I love that whole thing. That was the biggest thing when I came over to the States. Was I was like, wow, this country music's really good. I'm going to take all this home and show people.
There you go. There's another crossover you could do.
There you go.
Well, I guess it might have been done, but you could do it better. There you go. How's that?
I'd be sick. I'd love to do I'd love to do a duet with Chris Jansen or like Thomas Rhett. I think that would be pretty cool.
There you go. Now, if you could have one thing your fans could remember about you, what would that be?
Musically or what?
Musically, yes.
I guess like I want people to remember that we kind of found a way of fusing the past with the future in a good way. That never shied away from, like, we don't shy away from using modern production techniques or modern technology, but we're never going to try to get that to do the work for us. But we're not going to be one of those bands that just goes, yeah, we only can use guitars and only use basses and drum. If we want to use synths and stuff in the future, we've played around with that in the past, we'll use them. You know, if we want to fuse some new electronic fashion with what we're doing, then we'll do that. So the band that will always look back to where we've come from, but never be afraid of like being part of what's going on right now.
That's great. That's perfectly said too. Now, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners that we haven't had the chance to talk about today?
I don't think so. I think if you want to hear what we're about, go to cityofthieves.london. That's our website. And all our social media, like our Twitter and our Instagram and stuff, and Facebook is at Thieves UK or Thieves _UK rather. So it's at Thieves _UK. And we try to kind of include a bit of our lifestyle stuff behind the music and stuff like that as well. So it's not just about music all the time. And come chat to us, ask us what we're up to, tell us what you're doing, and check out the music, check out our Spotify for the single streaming, and then when the album comes out, that'll be on there as well. And then if you like it, feel free to grab a copy.
Awesome. I'm on it. I'm going to be on that. Definitely, for sure. Well, Jamie, it was super pleasure talking to you today.
Thank you. You too.
We here at the Manamal really see big things for you guys.
I certainly hope so, and I'd love to come over and play in the States at some point.
We'd love that too. To our listeners, if you want a great rock and roll album, you'll definitely want to check out City of Thieves record, Beast Reality, on Frontiers Records. It definitely will get your head banging and your air guitar rocking. So this is Misti-Dawn with the Manamal Streaming Radio. Have a great day.